Hey everyone, welcome back to our art channel. So we will be doing a completely new series of character art mashups. So if you're new here, my name is Miguel.
And I'm Michelle.
And today we will be combining two characters from two different franchises, Lord of the Rings and Studio Ghibli. And this time we'll be doing the Nazgul from Middle-earth and the character Howl from Howl's Moving Castle. So we hope you enjoy.
So this is my drawing of the mashup of Howl and the Nazgul. And right now, as you can see, I do a couple of drawing passes, rough sketching, just to get the idea of how this character is going to look. I mostly will be referencing more of this style of Studio Ghibli. So like I want to design my character as if it's going to be animated. So very straightforward colors, straightforward line work, not too much like painterly style, and just keep the colors sort of like flat as possible and maintain that Studio Ghibli look. And so right now you can see I had a little bit of trouble of like the face because Howl is such a handsome character, and I kind of was trying to think about going back and forth if I wanted him not to have a face, because the Nazgul doesn't have a face. It's just a shadow under like some kind of crown of some sort. And right here I put weapons and stuff. So who is Howl? Howl is a character from Howl's Moving Castle, hence the title, and he is a wizard who gave up his heart to a fire demon, Calcifer. And Calcifer is the one that actually makes the castle move where Howl lives, and so he's pretty much like the other main character aside from Sophie. And if you're not familiar with the backstory of Howl's Moving Castle, it's actually an adaptation of the book of the same name by Diana Wynne Jones, and it was published in the 80s, I believe. And so there's actually two main differences from the film that wasn't really in the book. The two things were, one, there wasn't really like a war in the book, and the film actually kind of displays more of Howl's involvement in participating in the war. And that's kind of common in a lot of Studio Ghibli, or specifically Hayao Miyazaki's films, because he has like a lot of stories that include some kind of war reference. The second difference is that Howl doesn't actually turn into a bird at all in the book, because in the film they wanted to display Howl's like heartlessness, and they wanted to show that by turning him into a bird in the film. And it's one of those iconic looks of Howl, and so that's why it's like I implemented the bird wings at this point. In the book, the idea of him having no heart is just his interaction with Calcifer, because like he literally gave his heart to a fire demon. And so that's why I think when me and Miguel were talking about wanting to combine these two characters, it's this idea of you gave your humanity or your heart to a higher evil being to become like a powerful being yourself. I'm not entirely too sure if when Howl gave his heart to the demon Calcifer, it might have made him powerful, but most definitely the Nazgul, they lost the entire humanity. And so Miguel and I thought it's a great connection to how Howl is similar to the Nazgul. And then at this point right here, I kind of changed the colors theme away from Howl's original design to more dark, cold, gloomy, to kind of fit into the world more of like a Middle-earth. And the jacket is actually a very important detail in both the book and the movie, because it's one of those items that Sophie actually she would mend the jacket for Howl, and it's one of those indications in the book she's a sorceress. So this is my design for Howl and Nazgul. As you can see, this is how I would imagine if Howl was more in the world of Middle-earth.
So I will be doing my version of the Nazgul and Howl art mashup challenge, and in my interpretation I will be focusing on as if I'm designing my own character. Sometimes I would often use a base reference of an existing character design from the original artist, but this time I will be trying to come up with how I would want to design my own Middle-earth character, because in this scenario that I've imagined for my own mashup, I like to think that I'm creating an original character existing in Middle-earth who happens to be Howl from Howl's Moving Castle. Instead of just looking at an existing reference, I will be creating my own line art skeleton, just sketching out what kind of form I want to use. So obviously, if I'm imagining if Howl were to turn into the Nazgul, what would he look like and what kind of form or battle stance he would take. Only after I finish outlining the line work, both like the rough sketch and the official outline, that's when I look at the reference and decide, okay, is Howl going to be using his original clothing, or is he just going to be minimalistic? And I've decided, you know, since he's going to be fighting on the side of Mordor, since in the original story he's fighting from both sides of the war, he just like a mercenary, so he doesn't really have a sense of strict moral compass. So I like to think that if Howl were to be in the world of Middle-earth and was tainted by the power of the Nazgul or by Sauron, what would he do? And I think that he would lose a sense of his humanity, or at least most of his humanity, and he would be taking on a completely different look. And that's why I decided he's going to have nothing but a cloak and his demonic bird wings, just like in the movie Howl's Moving Castle. And this time, having also the armor that a Nazgul wears. And what I find interesting about the Nazgul is that at least in the original books and the stories, you don't really hear much exactly of what their nature is, but more of what they represent. So it's evident that they were once kings, they were once human men, and they were tempted by the rings and gave up their humanity and became ring wraiths. Sometimes they're known as the Dark Riders, and they would either ride on horseback or on dragonic creatures, and that's where they're mostly known as the Nazgul. Other than that, there's not much known about them, so everything is left up to visual or imaginative interpretation. So I had a look at Alan Lee's work on how he would interpret what the Nazgul or the ring wraiths would look like. And it's very simplistic, nothing but a cloak, because they're just shadows. They're mostly invisible, and unless you wear the one ring, can you actually see them? Taking that interpretation, I think it was best that in the mashup, I would have Howl have very minimalistic detail as possible, save for the armor and in the sword. The only thing left that Howl even wears is, besides the armor and the sword, is the crown, and nothing else. And what I like about approaching it minimalistically is I can better focus on the form. At least he's in a battle stance, and it's kind of showing off just the feeling and the sense of dread that Howl has. So it's not just, oh, you know, there's like nothing pretty to look at, but at least you can feel what Howl is feeling, in that he's just focused on fighting alongside the Nazgul. So that's pretty much my interpretation of combining Howl and the Nazgul, so I hope you enjoy that.